Good day, fish tankers. It's very cold here in Stellenbosch, and you see I've fired up the gas heater, and there it is burning, one patch burning there, giving off heat on its lower setting, but I want to turn it up, so I dial it up one more notch, and now you see there are two patches burning, and now it is giving off more heat, but still it's very cold, so I just crank it up another notch. And now all three of those patches are burning, and it is going at full blast, giving off a maximum heat, and soon it will be warm here in the lounge. Here is an electric oil heater. I'm going to switch on one of them, one switch, and its power is running and it's giving off heat. Not enough, second switch, now it's cranked up to full blast and it's going like a Boeing. What in the world does this got to do with aquariums? Well, our aquarium heaters are not the same as the space heaters in our homes, and it's essential to understand the difference. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is what we loosely refer to as aquarium heaters are in fact heater thermostats. So you have your heating element. In this case, it also has a probe that's attached to a thermostat that sits outside the tank where you can set it. That's integrated with a plug. These are the more sort of modern heaters. This is a small nano heater, and then you have your traditional heater, and that has got a sort of in a tube, and there's your heater, that element there, just like your electrical heater at home, but then on top of it sits a thermostat, and that thermostat, you set it here on top, and there it is calibrated as well. So if I can just turn it around, you'll see there's a calibration setting over there if I move the sucker out of the way. So those are your aquarium heaters. Now the heater itself only heats that much. It's not like your space heater. So if you've got a new tank and you want to heat it up, or if you did a water change, you're not going to heat the tank any faster by cranking up the heat, by turning that thermostat up to its max to 30 or 40 or whatever the case may be. It's not going to heat any faster because the heater has got the same output. This one is a tiny 35 watt nano heater. This one over here is 300 watts, is a much bigger heater. So it's not going to heat up the tank any faster if you set the thermostat to a higher setting. It doesn't set the heater on full blast. The heat that the heater gives off is finite. So if your heater struggles to get your aquarium onto the right temperature, it simply means that the heater is not big enough for the tank. Then you need a higher wattage heater. Now it's hard to determine exactly what size heater for what tank, because it's two factors. It's not only the size of a tank like with filtration, it also relates to your ambient temperature, but roughly about between 1 and 1.5 watts per liter is a good sort of ballpark figure to work on. But you know, it doesn't matter if your heater's wattage is higher, because it doesn't continue working. How our aquarium heater works is it heats up the water to the temperature that you set on the thermostat, and when it reaches it, it switches off the heater. That's what the thermostat does. And when the temperature drops a little by half a degree or so, then that heater kicks in again and until it's on temperature again, and so it stabilizes your temperature. So that's another thing. You don't switch the heater on and off. You plug in the heater and you leave it plugged in, you leave it off. You leave it on, because your thermostat will switch it on and off. So you're not going to heat it up any quicker by cranking up the thermostat to 40. It's just going to continue working to 40 and kill your fish. So it's not going to give up more heat. So set your thermostat to the temperature. Let's say 25 degrees Celsius is sort of your general tropical temperature. I set mine at 26 because we have load shedding here, so that the temperature doesn't drop so low in all these power outages. But then you look at your thermometer that's either inside or outside your tank, and you see what the temperature is, because it's very seldom that those thermostats are calibrated in a way that they keep the temperature exactly where they calibrated at. So set it to 25 degrees, for instance. Give it some time. The bigger the tank is, the colder the water is, the longer it's going to take. Give it a day if it's a new tank, or half a day, and then check where your temperature is at. And if you see it's higher or lower, then you adjust your thermostat accordingly, and then you set it. And I almost want to say forget it, but every day when you walk past the tank, just give a quick glance at the thermometer to see that the temperature is correct. But do not crank it up. You can't crank up these heaters. It's not like your home heaters. It's not going to heat faster, so don't crank it up. Set it to the temperature, check that it is maintaining at that temperature, and then just every day you check your thermometer, but never unplug it. I've heard guys say it's too warm, the fish tanks are overheating, I'm going to unplug the heaters. You do absolutely nothing by unplugging the heaters. If you're going to have a cold spate again tonight, your fish tank temperature is going to drop too low. The thermostat, if it's working correctly, will switch off your heater automatically if the temperature has been reached that it's set to, or if the temperature is too hot. The heater is going to be off anyway. Heaters don't cool, they only heat. Now, what does go wrong with aquarium heaters sometimes, the thermostat will get stuck. And if it gets stuck on the on position, it's just going to keep heating and heating, and it will eventually kill your fish. So that's why I say just take a quick glance at the thermometer on your tank every day when you walk past, just to make sure that doesn't happen. I've heard about quite a few people where this happened, but I must say in my 40 odd years of fish keeping, I've been very lucky. I've never had a thermostat get stuck in the on position. What has happened before is the heater just reached the end of its life and it burned out, and suddenly I saw, oops, the tank is too cold, but the pilot light of the thermostat is on. I felt the element, oops, it's not heating, so I knew I had to chuck out the heater and put in a new one. But that is it. You keep your heater plugged in. You can't crank it up. You set the thermostat and you check it that it's at the right temperature, and once you got that maintained, you leave it. Now, you can have a backup, for instance, for if that thermostat gets stuck in the on position, the heater malfunctions, and that's called the temperature controller. And then the temperature controller will basically, in parentheses, unplug your heater and switch it off. And it can also switch on a cooler if you're one of those guys with a marine reef tank where that is important. Usually they don't need it for run-of-the-mill tropicals, or maybe you have an axolotl like Shaw. Then you can have a cooler that the temperature controller will then switch on. But a temperature controller is almost just like another type of thermostat that serves as a backup if the thermostat on your heater fails. So I hope that clears it up. That's the difference between your aquarium heater and your heater, your gas heater or your electrical heater in your home. So keep that in mind. I hope that is clear, because if you don't understand this, you can end up boiling your fish, or you think somehow by unplugging the heaters the temperature is going to come down because it's so hot. The ambient temperature is ambient temperature. Heaters don't cool. So I hope that explains it. And if you like the content, if you found it useful, please give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing. And until we see each other again, keep on taking good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.